The base is dropped on another Wall Pass Wednesday edition of Soccer Down Here. Welcome. I'm Jason Longshore, John Nelson, Jarrett Smith alongside. We'll be taking your questions all morning long. It's basically a 2-hour AMA. Ask us whatever you want, whether it's Atlanta United, whether it's MLS, whether it's U.S. national team, whether it's Jarrett's opinions about MLS digital media, whether it's John's opinions about Brunswick Stew, whatever you want to go.
Jason's opinions on Nutella.
Yes.
Good call. Fair enough. And you even had a sound effect. Somebody did anyway. That's awesome.
Yeah, John's fault.
It is.
Yeah, anything can happen today on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We will be talking U.S. men's national team, roster and lack of a coach. We will be talking MLS playoffs. We'll start with last night over at Fido Irish Pub in Buckhead. Thanks, everybody who came out. It was a great turnout last night. Good conversation after the show as well. We had Tony Annan and Vera Ziegler on with us, and this was definitely the type of show when we started talking about stoppage time and taking it out into the public and having guests on. This was the type of show we wanted to do because, you know, Mike and Jimmy and I could talk Atlanta United and games all day long and just keep going and going and going. But we've got an opportunity, I think, to tell bigger stories, and Tony and what he's doing with the academy, and honestly, I think helping to shape the culture of Atlanta United, and Vera, who is having a huge hand in shaping the culture of Atlanta United. It's really cool to get those stories into the mix as well, and really try to do something different with it. We had a couple clips from the show last night, wanted to share with you guys. If you want to see the whole thing, it is available on demand over at facebook.com/929thegame. I believe there will be a podcast audio edition of it that will come out later today. But for now, here's a clip from Tony Annan discussing Atlanta United's academy.
I mean, we are fortunate that we have a training ground that Mr. Blank provided, which is a complete, it's a whole package for the youth soccer player. Mm-hmm. They see Miggy, they see Tito, they see Joseph. Joseph came and watched games last year. Mm-hmm. Julian Gressel was out watching the U12s 4 weeks ago, and I texted him and I said, "Thanks for coming out." He goes, "No problem, it was my pleasure." Like, I didn't ask him to come there.
Right.
That culture will breed. I mean, it's from the bottom to the top. And if our players can see that chemistry, can see that talent that's right in front of them that they can almost touch, and sometimes they do touch it, they shake hands with those guys, you can't buy that feeling. You can't put that anywhere. And a lot of these training grounds I've been to around the world, I think I was at Real Madrid, there was a metal fence for the first team when Mourinho was there that not even an academy staff member could walk through the fence. Yeah. We get to... I had lunch with Brad and Julian today. It's like we sit there, we chat, it's such an open culture, and that's designed by Darren and Carlos all the way down the line. That's the way we want it. Our guys can use the training room when the pros are in there getting taped. Mm-hmm. There's very few clubs in the world where a first team is that close to a youth player. So we use that as much as we can to build the culture, the camaraderie, the feeling of being an ATL player, and we're hammering that home as often as possible, because it's what it's all about. It's striving to be that guy who's putting on the 5 stripes on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
That's what you want for every youth player.
Really cool to get behind the scenes on the Atlanta United Academy, and we've talked about culture a lot, and it's been more from a fan base or from a media perspective, but the culture at the club itself is a really important thing too, and I think we've seen it here with the way the first team fought back and worked hard for one another on Sunday night. We see it in academy matches. We see it in the way ATL UTD2 finished the season, fighting against teams that had better records and teams that were trying to fight for playoff positioning. And Atlanta United 2 didn't back down from that. That culture is big, and it starts with the kids. And the fact that you have an academy, as Tony said, that is not unique in the world, but maybe different from a lot of major clubs where first-team guys and 12 and 13-year-olds are in the same building and can interact. That's a big deal. And Jarrett, we've talked about it before that, the group that came in and started the academy was a very talented group. It was kind of the perfect generation of Atlanta youth soccer talent to get things kickstarted. But it's truly the 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds that started in the academy that are going to grow up in this culture and honestly help shape it going forward. Those are the guys that Tony talked about being the most excited about, and I think those are the guys that we've been waiting to see. I mean, they're U15s now. They're still a few years away, but it's going to be great to see what they've learned over this long period of time with Atlanta United.
Yeah, it's not the Andrew Carltons of the world that will be impacted so heavily by this academy. It's the younger brother,
the Alan
Carlton. The Alan Carlton is you're gonna see more impact from the academy on Alan than from Andrew, and that's just because he's gonna literally been in it from day young, a younger age. There's gonna be more impact in terms of tactics, personality, the culture, the training, both on and off the field. I think you're going to see the bigger impact with it. And that's not to say it'll just be the Carltons. That's just a really easy, low-hanging example to use. The culture part is interesting to me. And you go back and look at the results this team had. The twos team, I don't remember 2 games where they ran the same 18 out there. A lot of changing guys in and out. Hard to find your chemistry when it was always different guys playing together. What sticks to me about this team is when they did get their teeth kicked in, which was a few times this year, they generally bounce back really nicely. In a similar vein to what we've seen with the first team, in that they don't let things snowball. They do a really good job of huddling together in a mass and making sure that things don't get sideways, especially long term. And I think that's part of the culture that you've helped build and part of the right mindset that you've installed.
Definitely. I think the one time the twos had the same lineup sheet was late in the season when you didn't have any first-team guys available, and they had a Wednesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Sunday. And the first game, I want to say it was Cincinnati. It was a bad loss because this was a group that had not played together in any way, and you were really missing some pieces. But when you had them again a couple of days later, I think they pulled a 1-1 draw against one of the top teams. So
was it the Indy 11 Dylan Gaither?
Yeah, I think it was. And I think that was another one where the academy came into play because they got a chance to be with a group for a week. And that doesn't happen very often right now with the twos or for the academy guys when they're first getting that sniff of what the professional game is like. So culture was a big thing with Tony and just the way things are set up at the club for academy kids to, just build a connection with the crest. And it sounds, silly if you haven't been in that environment, but when you have a kid who has been at Atlanta United from day one at 11, 12 years old, and they get a chance to potentially sign a deal, they're going to have a different feeling for the club. And that's why you have to always invest in your academy, because those are the guys who truly, I think, keep up what Atlanta United is. Because some people are going to come and go, and some people are going to be brought in, and they're going to have to, get the culture quickly. The kids and the ones who grow up in it are the ones who I think set the culture. And that's a really important part of it. Another side of setting the culture is what the 17s do and the way it sounds at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the way it looks and the way it looks in the Gulch and Home Depot backyard and all of it. That's a big part of what Atlanta United is, and it doesn't go unnoticed by staff, by players, by the national media, by just general people in Atlanta who haven't grown up with soccer but are like, wow, that is different. I want to be part of that. We talked to Vera Ziegler from the Resurgence supporters group. Vera has been profiled before. Great artist and one of the drivers behind a lot of the TIFOs. The groups work collaboratively, and especially this time of year, they work very collaboratively. Vera's had a hand in a lot of the great TIFOs this season, and somebody who I definitely wanted to get on the show to talk about, her role in shaping that culture. Here's a clip from our conversation with Vera last night.
It's a vibe. When you get in there, I remember bringing my parents, and they're both 60 plus, and they left like, okay, I get it. It's a vibe, it's an energy, it's a passion. You go and you see people of every walks of life wearing kits, the colors, scarves, buying a scarf, being there, and then, from tifo to kick to yelling and screaming and chanting and celebrating. Beer showers are aplenty. People really, get into that, and they want to come and check that out. So I think once people come to a match in Atlanta in the Benz and see that and experience that, they're hooked, and they want to know more about, not just what's going on the field of play, but how they can become involved and learn more and really support and, champion our club.
What I love about it, John, is that if you want to be somebody who is a casual fan and likes Atlanta sports and wants to go support the soccer team because you support the football team and the baseball team and the basketball team, you can do that. If you want to go and make a day of it and tailgate and hang out after the game and talk to folks, you can do that. If you want to get deeper in and you want to march into the stadium, you want to stand in the supporter section, you want to chant, you want to jump up and down, you can do that. And if you want to get involved even deeper on stuff like TIFO, like supporters group leadership, like some of these aspects of shaping things, you can do that as well. There's a spot for everybody, and I think that's what's been the coolest thing about the supporters culture around Atlanta United is that it is truly inclusive, and you can get involved at whatever level you want to get involved at.
And you can get involved to the point to where you really can give back to the community, and you can be, I'll use the word founder for lack of a better word right now, but you could be at that absolute foundation level of being impactful toward the future of the sport, not just in the game day sense, but with the supporters groups and how they give back to the community and how they set things up for the next generation. Because what you're able to do here, regardless of your level of involvement, is sit there and be a part of that ground floor and build the foundation of the house that is the fan base of Atlanta United. And, if you want to pick up a hammer and help, build a closet, you want to knock down a wall, you want to help expand something, you want to sit there and put on a hard hat and shimmy up the side of the house and put some siding on the roof, you can do that too. And I think that it's really cool that being involved in something from the base level, from that ground level, you can sit there and say, okay, yeah, I'd like to help in this way. Yeah, I'd like to help in this way. Yeah, I'd like to help in the third way. Yeah, I'd like to help in all three. And really to have this blank slate for everyone who wants to be a part of it, regardless of that level, you're helping out and you're helping build the fabric and the framework for something very special, and you're leaving it for others. And that legacy that you're building now will be a part of something long after you've stopped being interested, 135,000 years from now when MLS is at, 75,000 teams or something like that. But you're a part of the foundation now, and I think that that's important. And the fact that you can do it a bunch of different ways, I think, is just as cool.
Go check out Stoppage Time Live over at the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. Join us next week. We'll be at Fido Irish Pub in Buckhead, 7 o'clock. It's been a blast to be able to do these live. The response has been good. People have been coming out, so hopefully that can continue. Put it down on the calendar and join us. I think maybe the coolest thing about last night was after we finished, there were 5, 6, 7 different conversations going on between people who came to hang out. So it's kind of become a meetup in some ways for folks, and it's been very cool to help have some way in facilitating that. So thanks, everybody, for coming out and watching and listening. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get into some of the Wall Pass Wednesday stuff after this. There's a few things bubbling up out there that are going to be quite interesting as we get closer to Sunday. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, November 7th edition. Wall Pass Wednesday, taking your questions, comments, topic suggestions, whatever you have in mind today on the show. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Use the Wall Pass Wednesday hashtag. John, where do you want to go first?
Oh, let's see. Domer. It was good to see Domer.
What's up, Domer?
I believe he had a hall pass to come into Fido when he was able to last night. He said, first, it was great fun at Fido last night. It seems like all soccer in the South is gaining more visibility, especially women. Do you see Atlanta United creating a women's side to the academy and possibly a professional team? Hashtag Wall Pass Wednesday.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation last night as well. I can absolutely see it. I think, one of the biggest things right now is just honestly logistics. You have a training facility that is packed to the gills with fields, with academy teams. They're full. When everything is up and running, it's full between the pro team, the first team, the Atlanta United 2 team, the U19s, the U17s, the U16s, the U15s, the U14s, U13s, U12s, plus coaching education courses, all kinds of other stuff, plus staff. The building is bursting at the seams already. That's a good thing. I believe there are ideas about how it could be expanded. I believe there's extra land that is available. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some building. I think that's the only thing really slowing it down is you don't want to do too much. You don't want to overextend yourself, and you've got to prepare for it. I think Atlanta United 2 came along a year ahead of schedule because it needed to. And Andrew Carlton's development being nominated for a USL Young Player Award shows the value in it. The academy guys getting time in USL shows the value of rushing that a little bit. And it got done, and it was a productive year for ATL UTD2. I think it's at least 2 years away for a women's team or academy to find a home there. It's just going to take time to build things out. I mean, you'd have to build separate locker rooms, probably a separate building of some sort. It's just something you would have to do because of the way the building is designed and how full it is. So that will take some time. I think there's questions on the NWSL side of things when you look at the pro side. I mean, we've talked about them quite a bit. They've got to deal with Sky Blue. They've got to get something done there because that cannot continue in the way that it has. They've got to get the Barca thing sorted out. likely with them being in Los Angeles and LAFC being involved. I think once those two questions get answered, then you can have a conversation about Atlanta and is it Atlanta United involved in it? If Atlanta United's involved in it, then there's an academy to go along with it and everything is done that way. If somebody else does NWSL in Atlanta, I don't know if Atlanta United would do a girls' academy because I don't know if there'd be the value in that investment. So we'll have to wait and see a little bit, but I think it's honestly a couple years away just because of logistics and making sure that you can handle it properly.
Let's see. Drew Gano in the overnights had Geiger as the center ref for Atlanta versus NYCFC. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but Pro doesn't assign randomly. Looks like MLS wants NYCFC to move on. Add soccer down here. Hashtag Wild Pass Wednesday. Hashtag MLS narrative.
No, I hate that that's the narrative of it. Mark Geiger's their most decorated referee. Like it or not, it's the truth. You don't have anybody else who refereed the level of games that Mark Geiger did in the World Cup. Jair Marufo was there, and he's probably your second most decorated referee. But Geiger's your top guy. And you put him on the game that is the second leg of a contentious series that saw a ton of fouls and a ton of different moments in it in the first leg. That makes sense. I mean, that makes total sense that he would get this assignment. Look, it's a situation like this. If you're Atlanta United, you know the story. You know who he is and how he works. He's a guy who has no fear of making himself the center of attention, no fear of trusting his gut in making a call. He'll make a big call. He'll call a big penalty. He'll give a big red card. He will make a big call in a game. If you're Atlanta United, you have to avoid those situations. And if a call gets made, you have to just deal and move on. I think everybody who's played the game or coached the game has had a referee like this that will make something happen in a game, will make a big call. You know that they're capable of it. You know that that's what you have to worry about, and you have to manage yourself accordingly. It's going to be tough because it's going to be 70,000 fans going nuts. It's going to be a team that is fighting to keep their season alive, and we've seen now from more isolated video and pictures some of the links that NYC will go to make that happen. You just have to play. If it gets seen, great. Geiger's going to red card it. I would hope that Mark Geiger, based off his past history, if he spots David Villa throwing an elbow into the mouth of Jeff Larenowitz behind the play, that he's going to give that a red card. He's not afraid of anything. If he sees it. If he doesn't, you just got to play. You just have to play like Atlanta did with Kevin Stott. Yeah, that's just how it is. That's your referee. Stop freaking out. Stop already talking conspiracy theories. No. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think they assigned their most high-profile referee to their most high-profile match this weekend. That's what any league or assigner would do.
Yeah, I would have put him probably on this match, too, if it's me. And go back and look at the Colombia-England game. We talked about it yesterday, but he managed that game.
I hope he brings that perspective to this. I really do, because that one, he did everything possible to keep it 11v11 and let it be decided on the field. I think other refs would have probably had that end 10-on-9 or 9-on-8 or whatever. I was okay with that because it was consistent. You knew what he was trying to get across. If he comes in with that mindset and he has a lot of leeway because he wants this to be decided by the two teams on the field in terms of sending guys off, honestly, I'm fine with that. As long as he's consistent, I'm fine with that.
And look, I get that what comes with Geiger. I mean, he's under a microscope. If he has a bad game, it's going to be magnified. If he has a good game, it's going to be magnified. I get it. You don't have to push a conspiracy theory here in the sense of don't set yourself up with an excuse ahead of time for if things go bad. Don't do that. Just, hey, it's Mark Geiger. Okay, well, this could be interesting. Okay, we'll see how it plays out. Honestly, if there's anyone on this, if I have to pick like an official who I don't want to see on this game after past experiences in Atlanta matches and the way he handled matches lately, it's been Baldomero Toledo. I'd rather see Geiger than Toledo lately.
Yeah, can't really argue that at all. Toledo has had some moments. So The rest of the crew, the rest of the crew, the ARs, Nelson and Rockwell, I think are two of the best. Dave Gantar has been a VAR a lot this season. I don't remember anything with him. I'll have to go back and dig a little deeper. Fourth official doesn't matter. It's Armando Villarreal. He's just going to be yelled at for 90-plus minutes by Tata Martino and Dome Tarrant. So,
do we know who Snuffleupagus is?
No, we never know who the assistant VAR is. They've never said who it is. So, no, I have no idea. I know most of the referees that it could be in Atlanta, and I've never seen any of them there, so I don't know who it is. But they don't do anything. But they don't do anything, so who cares? Like, they literally don't do anything. They were supposed to communicate with commentators, but they don't. And I'm going to keep beating that drum because it's not that they're supposed to be there helping the VAR according to what was laid out. I mean, I think they were supposed to help with identifying some camera angles and stuff. I hope they're doing that if they're there. But they were also supposed to lead the communication side, and they have not. They have not, period. So that's not a good thing. That's the part that Pro has to get right. And I just don't want to hear the whole, oh, everything's good. No, it's not. Even if you like the system as it stands, which I don't, the communication has to improve. So don't stick your head in the sand, Pro. Come on, get this better.
Joe Bost. Who is the ring announcer who goes, it's time? Who's that? Is in MMA?
Isn't that the other buffer?
Bruce?
Yeah, I think
there's
that's
multiple
Bruce.
buffers?
Yeah, there's two buffers.
Yes. We have multiple layers of buffering.
I think Michael Buffer is the get ready to rumble guy, and Bruce Buffer is the it's time.
Okay, so Joe Bost invoked his Bruce Buffer for his Wall Pass Wednesday. He says, 1, Geiger's ref sucks. Hopefully no red cards for either team or VAR garbage. 2, the last U8 game this weekend for the little dude. He's sitting on 47 goals, and he says, also 3, Atlanta United will win Sunday 2-1.
I'll take that. I'll take all of that if that's what comes to fruition. It's a playoff game. It's going to be more difficult than dealing with a referee. You know, I mean, you got to deal with an NYC team that does not stink, and a New York City team that is playing for their season right here. Backs are against all. You're going to see turnover with this group if you don't get this win. Things are going to change with this group under Dome Tarrant with a full offseason where he can make the changes he wants to make. So you've got guys playing for their futures. You've got guys playing for this season. They're gonna bring it. They're gonna bring everything they have. You got to deal with that before you worry about referees or anything else.
And it's a New York City team, by the way, that's been really bad on the road since Dome Tarrant got here. They're gonna do whatever it takes to get themselves up for that game, and they're gonna have to do something to come out in the right mindset, because I think they know, and the pressure's got to be we talked about it. The pressure was on them in New York to get a result on their home field and get enough of a buffer, knowing that when they go on the road, they haven't been great since Tarrant took over. They haven't been a great road team. Well, they didn't get the result they needed at home. The pressure's even more so on them now, I think, to go out and to start this game on the right foot. And if they don't, how do they react? What happens with that club?
Here's your numbers on Geiger to keep in mind. Geiger has done 14 games in MLS as the center referee this season. Fouls per game, just over 22. That puts him in the bottom half of referees who have worked this season. Fouls per tackle is 0.7. It's a little high. It's in the top half. Penalties, he's only called 0.14 penalties per game. I believe that's one penalty in his 14 appearances, if I can do math. Yellow cards is low, 2.86, 40 yellows in 14 games. He's given 4 reds in 14 games, 0.29. That's on the lower side. His 3 World Cup games, he called just under 34 fouls per game. He also had that England-Colombia game that was a foul fest. Few more penalties per game. He gave 1 in his 3 games, 0.33. Yellows, he did go to the book more, 14 yellows in the 3 games, 4.67. He did not give a red during his 3 World Cup games. That's your Mark Geiger stats for this morning. We're going to take a break, come back, talk about the election results in Miami. Miami is going to get the stadium that they want. and we'll see how all that comes together. We've got a clip from Mr. Beckham, who talked about it last night. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here. November 7th edition of the show. Wall Pass Wednesday edition. We're taking your questions, comments, AMAs, whatever you got. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Doug Robertson of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, our good friend, reached out to the professional referee organization to expand on decisions made by Kevin Stott in the match on Sunday. We have a couple of statements from Pro about two different incidents in the game. The offside review on Miguel Almiron. Pro said this: the offside review was very clear and obvious. Almiron was much closer to the goal line than the second-to-last New York City FC defender. Yeah, that's a factual statement completely. Clear and obvious, I would maybe take issue with because nobody knew that's what was being looked at. For a referee, I could see it being clear and obvious, but I would also love to hear why the AR did not rule it to be clear and obvious. And don't tell me they keep their flag down until they know. If that was clear and obvious, the flag should have went up. There's really nothing to argue about there. I think it's the right call. I truly do. But I don't like the way it was handled. I don't like the way it's sorted out at all. And it would not surprise me if the initial part of the review was focused on Jeff Lorenowitz and not Miguel Almiron, and they found it in the secondary look. Here's the one that's interesting.
Strap in, everybody.
Oh, don't. No, we're not fanning flames. We're going to read a statement and we're going to give our comments about it. Don't strap in. Just listen. David Villa and his foul on Greg Garza. The studs up to the kidney. Pro said this about Stott's decision. Regarding the incident with David Villa and Greg Garza, this was a judgment call between the issuing a yellow card for a reckless challenge or the issuing of a red card for serious foul play. As such, opinions could be split. The issuing of a yellow card in this instance is not a clear and obvious error. Villa makes an attempt to connect with a dropping ball. However, he arrives late and makes contact with the opponent. This is reckless and worthy of a yellow card, but the force used falls short of excessive. The non-issuing of a red card in this situation does not meet the threshold for a clear and obvious error. Okay. That's something.
That's a paragraph.
Yeah. Look, studs up is studs up.
Yeah.
Last time I've had these things explained by referees and organizations like this, Studs up, even when you don't make contact, is worthy of a red card for being dangerous. This made contact nowhere near the ball. Yes, he's trying to play a dropping ball. Sure, he missed by about 3 feet and connected with a player's kidneys. I don't know. I got nothing. It feels like a different threshold, and I thoroughly disagree with the statement. I think it's trying to excuse something that was a bad decision, honestly. I just don't think there's anything else to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that even if you were late, no matter how late you were, you came in with studs up, that's see you later.
You're running the risk of a red when you go studs up if you make contact or not. It's not automatic, but you're running that risk because it can be deemed as reckless, as dangerous, as lots of different things. The problem I have with it is, okay, Pro explains all this. That's great. There was no yellow card issued. There was no yellow card issued. This is talking about a judgment between a yellow card or a red card. There was no yellow card issued. 0. David Villa racked up a couple of these. That's elbow to the mouth, studs up there, bicycle kick to Joseph. If you actually show the yellow card that Pro says probably should have been shown, maybe other things are handled differently. Maybe things happen, although it's David Villa, so probably nothing was going to happen. It's just, I think you're trying to excuse a bad decision, and you, in your excuse of the not going to a red card here, or not even going to a VAR situation, you highlight the fact that Stott did not even show a yellow card. So, yeah, it's just one of those deals. Full credit to Doug for getting these quotes out of professional referee organization, and credit to them for giving the statements. You can disagree with them, and I disagree with the second one, but credit to them to responding because they don't have to, but they did. I'd love for them to get the communication better in match, though. That has to change because if the first one was very clear and obvious, why did no one in the stadium have an idea what was being looked at? That's the question I have. And if it is so clear and obvious, please tell us. Just please tell everybody. You have a PA announcer. You have TV and radio broadcasts. Tell us so we can tell people. That's what we're there for.
Swickster translated the paragraph that you just read.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I translated the pro referee's explanation of the Villa Garza cleats. He says, quote, this play deserved a yellow card, maybe a red, but received neither. We're going to keep typing big words to make it seem like we agree with the decision, which we can't justify, end quote.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in that statement, if you're going to make the argument that it's a yellow card foul, you need to make it clear that a yellow card was not issued and that was incorrect. But they didn't. They just basically said, well, it's a yellow card incident. But it wasn't. Because it wasn't given a yellow card.
Because you didn't give one.
Yeah, well, Pro doesn't give a yellow card. Stott does. But they don't want to call Stott out, even though they have to in a situation, because he should have given a yellow there. I mean, at a minimum, what they say is true. It is a judgment call about force and about danger and about recklessness, and all that comes into play, and it's a judgment call. Is it yellow, red? Okay. It's definitely not nothing. That's the part that you can't justify. If you've got players who can go studs up above the waist and not be penalized, you're setting yourself up for somebody to get hurt. You just are. So that has to be addressed. And I don't know what the exact question was. I don't know, if they just basically responded to the question and didn't want to say anything else, but for that to not get a yellow after that explanation, which I think is soft, but sure, it's a judgment call. The judgment in this case was to not give anything, which is absolutely incorrect, the wrong judgment. There's just no justifying it.
And the fact that you had 2 instances like that with Villa, neither of them called. And to your point, I think that someone is going to get seriously injured in a situation like this down the line. And And then we'll see how Pro reacts in that vein when that goes down.
No. This is not how every referee calls every game. It's not about down the line. It's about 90 minutes. It's about the way that game was managed. That game bordered on getting out of control because of decisions like this. Not the next game, not the Dallas game, not the Colorado game next year. That game, that the whistle blew Sunday night in Yankee Stadium. That was the one that was the issue. Not every ref is Kevin Stott. Not every ref calls it this way. That has to be understood, because I think sometimes things get lumped together that every ref in Major League Soccer is terrible and every ref lets all this go. And no, that's not what happens. This was a bad decision by Kevin Stott in this instance. I think the fact that Villa had the 3 significant incidents with no yellow card is an issue for Kevin Stott and the way this game was handled. Combine that with Tito Villalba picking up a yellow for nothing in his first foul of the match after coming on as a sub. Other incidents that didn't see yellow, that did. Ben Sweat on a yellow card tightrope, had 3 significant incidents in a very short period of time, did not get a yellow for persistent infringement. That's on Kevin Stott in that game that is now over. That's the criticism. It's not about somebody getting their leg broken in another game. Players are smarter than that. Players don't come into this game based off how Kevin Stott called the last one. Players come into this game to see how Mark Geiger is going to call this one. That's how the game's played. That's how things work out. So just because one referee, and this happens across all leagues, just because one referee has a bad day, I've seen people say that MLS is a joke league because a referee has a bad day. Come on, really? How many times have we talked about referees in the Premier League? How many times have we talked about referees in El Clasico and in La Liga? I guess they're joke leagues too. Like, no, it was a bad day on that referee's part. The refereeing in Major League Soccer is not to the standard of those other 2 leagues or some other leagues around the world. It's better than others. It needs to improve. It needs to get more consistent. But this was a Kevin Stott issue in the game on Sunday, and that's it. I hope that Mark Geiger calls this more consistently, especially in his use of cards. Fouls, I didn't have as much of a problem with Stott. Cards, I had a big issue. It didn't affect the outcome of the match. Atlanta needs to play this one as Mark Geiger is going to call it, which could be completely different. He could go card happy in the first 10 minutes to set a tone. He could say, you know what, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do here to control this with cards. I'm going to step back. I'm going to call fouls. I'm going to talk to players. I'm going to try to keep it calm for as long as I can and try not to throw cards. We don't know what his approach is going to be. So we have to wait and see. But just because Kevin Stott made a bad call doesn't mean that somebody's going to get hurt on Sunday.
But I'm looking at it from the perspective of Jordan rules. If David Villa is able to do what he did.
David Villa is not trying to break anybody's leg, John. David Villa is reckless, and he's able to get away with stuff because of David Villa. That doesn't mean he's trying to hurt somebody. I'm not putting that on David Villa. Going studs up in that situation, he's not trying to end Greg Garza's day or career or anything. He's trying to get a hit on him.
And I wasn't getting into the injury aspect. I was getting into the notion of players of the status/stature of a David Villa getting away with things like that because they're David Villa, and other stars who would have that same kind of cachet in these situations that are of greater import now that you're in the postseason, still getting that longer leash or not getting a card because of who they are. That was my angle.
Yeah, but it started with you saying somebody's going to get hurt, and that David Villa is the way the stuff he's getting away with. It's not it. That's not the situation here, and not everybody calls it the same way. We've seen other refs call things differently. Geiger's a guy who that's something that if you want to take positive out of Mark Geiger getting this game, I don't think Mark Geiger cares who David Villa is. Mark Geiger's been there and done that. I don't think he cares. So that should be a good thing. Again, it's just because one referee calls it one way and lets something go from a star player doesn't mean it's going to happen the next game with a different ref. I don't want to draw that large conclusion and then get into conspiracy theory and hashtag MLS narrative and all that type of stuff. Superstars get calls. We know that. It's a universal thing in sports. It happens. My frustration is Atlanta United's stars are not seen as superstars and they don't get calls as often. You could argue that Joseph got the benefit of the doubt on the thing with Chad Marshall. You could argue that for sure. You can argue that. But I think across the board, and yeah, probably a little biased, also get to see more games than most about Atlanta United. I think Atlanta United stars don't get those benefits of the doubt. I can't remember a situation like these three from Villa in this game without a yellow. I can't remember that. So
can't either.
That's the frustration. We know stars are going to get calls. We know your Schweinsteigers and Ibrahimoviches and Villas are going to get calls. Villas picked up cards in this league. Ibrahimovic got a VAR red. It does happen. It's not universal. So I don't want to go conspiracy theory on it at all. I just want to say that I think the explanation of why Villa this is the thing. The explanation is why Villa got a yellow card, except he didn't get a yellow card. The explanation is why he didn't get a red card, even though he should have had a yellow card. It's kind of a bad explanation because he didn't get a yellow card either. So I disagree with it. I think that is a case of, I don't know if anybody else gets that benefit of the doubt about force being applied there. It's incredibly reckless to go studs up that high. It just is. And there's not a lot you can say to justify that in my book. So we'll see. But again, Doug Robertson has the story. Doug has been on the case of the Professional Referees Organization all season and getting statements out of them that I don't think many have. So credit to Doug. We'll talk to him on Friday about Atlanta and NYC and give our predictions for the match. But we're going to take a quick break. More of your Wall Pass Wednesday questions on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
We're back. Soccer Down Here. Final segment, hour number 1 on a Wall Pass Wednesday edition of the show. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you this morning. Getting into your questions on the Twitters at Soccer Down Here. John, what else do we have?
Nathan Pugh had a nice thing to say. He says, part of the building and being the foundation has to include knowledge, though. I don't see as much as I should. Y'all do a good job of educating the casual on footy intelligence and knowledge. There needs to be more of that. Hashtag Wall Pass Wednesday.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, if I can tell you from my experience when the Thrashers came to town and I started watching and going to games, I didn't know the finer points at all at first. I enjoyed going to a game, and I understood the gist of it. I mean, it's not that different from what I watch on a regular basis. You're trying to put something into a net. It's a goal. I get it. But the finer points of strategy and stuff, it took me a while, and it was tough. And there honestly wasn't the type of resources that there are for soccer in terms of learning it and talking about it and hearing about it. It didn't exist. So I think that's something that has helped with Atlanta United is such a strong writing community. I mean, now, you have Doug, you have Felipe at The Athletic, you have Dirty South Soccer. Others are out there as well writing about it on a regular basis. You have a ton of different podcasts talking about it. You have Twitter, you have Reddit, you have Facebook groups, you have all kinds of stuff. There's conversation out there. I'm never one to judge, you don't know enough or you don't get this, so you're not as big of a fan. That's just never been my approach. I like to talk about the game, and I want to talk about it so the majority of people, get where I'm coming from. And if people pick things up along the way, even better. That's how I've enjoyed learning about sports is learning from people who talk about it and immerse themselves in it. So, I'm glad we can be that resource, but we're just here talking about what's going on, and it's fun. Honestly, I enjoy doing this every day.
And Nathan, to be perfectly honest, and I've made this point before, this is my PhD class into the sport. And to Jason's point about hockey, that's how I am about soccer. And, initially when people started talking about 6s and 8s, I just added it up and came up with 14. And, learning all of the different aspects of it and all that kind of stuff. This has been my master's class, my PhD for learning about the sport, and it's a continuing education for me going forward. And I'm hoping that, and I'm glad that we're, from your point of view, that we're a part of making sure that everybody is listening and finding out what's going on a day-to-day basis, whether or not it's here in the Southeast or other things that are going on. So the fact that, hopefully we're here and providing a forum like that, I think it's really cool that we're able to do it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. Look, I don't think of it as we're smarter than anybody else. I think that's the thing about soccer that, to me, I learn new stuff every day. Soccer consistently reinvents itself. And honestly, I think more so than other sports. Maybe basketball's in the same way because it has a flow to it. I think you've seen evolutions in basketball over the years as to how it's played at the top flight. But soccer, with it being such a worldwide game, you see things pop up and you see it start to spread. In recent times, Pep Guardiola's style of play, everybody tried to emulate it in the next year or two after Barcelona, and Pep started winning everything. And I don't know if everybody truly got how it worked. And then you saw different groups take different spins on it. Then you started to see the pressing system out of Germany and counter pressing, and you started to see teams try to control possession to counter that. You see teams park the bus. You see teams play an all-out attack. You see different styles in South America, and then those coaches move to Europe, and things get spread. And that's what's cool about it. It just constantly reinvents itself. That's what I like about it. So you never stop learning about the game. For me, soccer is honestly the easiest sport to sit down if you've never seen it and understand what's going on, trying to put the ball in the goal. That's it. But it's a sport you never know everything about and you never master. And that's what's awesome about it. So, hey, we're just along for the ride.
All right. So for the remainder of hour number one, you want to get into Miami?
Hold that thought. We have some.
Uh-oh.
No surprise, Vancouver Whitecaps announced today that Marc Dos Santos is their new head coach. He was the assistant with LAFC and Bob Bradley this season. He led the San Francisco Deltas to the final Soccer Bowl title in the North American Soccer League. He took the Ottawa Fury to an NASL final. Previous to that, he coached at Swope Park Rangers as well. He's won in a lot of spots. This is the guy that I think Vancouver wanted. And honestly, I think they probably fired Carl Robinson a little bit too early, thinking that Dos Santos was going to go to San Jose, where reportedly he interviewed. San Jose goes with Almeida. Vancouver doesn't make the playoffs. I think the Robinson firing, when it happened, probably ended any chance of that. But they do get Dos Santos. They get their guy. It's announced this morning. No surprise at all. Probably the top Canadian coach out there right now. And we'll see how much control he gets over, I think, reshaping a roster that desperately needs it. And it sounds like a roster that there's a lot of guys who want out of town.
And I want to see the stew that Mark Dos Santos is going to make in the kitchen up there in Vancouver. He's going to manage the first team roster, including player transactions, and according to the Caps, work closely with Academy TD Craig Dalrymple while reporting to Vice President of Soccer Operations Greg Anderson.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard setup. So we'll see what Dos Santos pulls together in Vancouver, start looking at what they're going to do with their roster for 2019. Before we go to break, here's the clip from David Beckham. The group Inter Miami did win their vote last night. They will be getting to build the stadium that they want to build, and this is Beckham after the vote went their way.
When we found out the results tonight, one of the first people through the door was Mayor Suarez. He came up to me and he said, "You guys have transformed." And I said, "No, we have transformed Miami today." We haven't just proved to Miami today, we've proved to the world that persistence, patience makes things happen. We are going to bring a championship winning team. We are going to bring great players. We are going to create homegrown talent. Lastly, I want to say thank you to you. Because without the support of you guys, this is what we wanted today. We wanted you guys to decide our future, your future, our children's future, your children's future. Today, that happened. So thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Y vamos a Miami.
David Beckham and his group will be able to do what they've planned to do. And now, with that, there's still a couple things to happen. You would think that it will now that the public has weighed in. But there's a lot of responsibility. Beckham talked about homegrown players. There's been consistent talk about giving back to the community and transforming Miami and transforming that part of Miami. So now it's up to Inter Miami to live up to their end of the bargain. Dave worked extremely hard to do this. Beckham did not give up. Many times he could have walked away and went to a different city, but looks like Inter Miami will have their home sooner rather than later. So 2020 is when they launch. They'll play in a temporary venue at first, but they'll get to build the stadium that they want. Keep an eye on what's going on in South Florida. We're going to take a break. We'll come back hour number 2 after this. Stay with us.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, November 7th, hour number 2. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. It's our 2-hour plus AMA. Ask away. We'll take whatever questions you have on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Mark Dos Santos, hired in Vancouver. David Beckham gets the land pretty much. There's still a couple things that have to be signed off on to build the stadium for Inter Miami that they want to do. Probably more stuff will happen this morning. That's what happens. That's when we do a show, we get some crazy news that pops up. We do have some signings in Cincinnati that we'll get into before we're done today. As FC Cincinnati or Fussball Club Cincinnati or whatever that gets truly rebranded to in Major League Soccer, announces some players. So good stuff all the way around as we are in between the first and second leg of the conference semifinals. John, what do we have on the Twitters?
On the Twitters, let's see what we have here. More Miami stuff.
Okay.
Joe Bost says he's looking forward to Miami coming online, thinking it will be a great rivalry for Atlanta United.
I could easily see that. I think Miami's going to come in and be very bold, very big, very aggressive. I think they'll have a major player on their roster from day one. For me, that was the city that it was smart for MLS to wait and to wait for it to be right, because I don't think there's another city out there that does not have Major League Soccer that could have the impact on the league that Miami can. I don't think there's another one out there. I think Cincinnati will be a great club. I think Nashville will be a great club, whether it's Detroit, Sacramento, St. Louis, Charlotte, Raleigh. I think all of them could be great clubs. I think Miami is a city and a club that can kick MLS to another level. And with Atlanta pushing so hard to take MLS to another level, getting some extra help from a Miami group that will be very ambitious, I think it's a good thing.
And Chris Berry with a question, and we're kind of drifting in and out here on the timeline. Chris Berry says, I know the club is focused on Sunday, but what's the easiest path to winning MLS Cup? # Wall Pass Wednesday.
The easiest path to MLS Cup, if you get to pick it, is you win on Sunday, you score goals early, it's a comfortable win, you don't have to stress too much. Columbus holds their lead and advances. I think you would feel very, very optimistic about a matchup with Columbus in the Eastern Conference Final. It's a team that you have handled. I know people will freak out about a scoreless draw in the postseason and Zach Steffen and penalties. Don't let it get there. Do what you've done to Columbus in every other game. 3-1 at Bobby Dodd last year, 2-0 in Columbus. Scoreless draw in the knockout round where you dominated the match. They had a few moments late. You had moments for about 100 minutes. This year, 2-0 in Columbus, 3-1 at Mercedes-Benz. That's a team you should feel very confident in playing. If that's the matchup in the Eastern Conference Final, that's the easiest path. And you host MLS Cup on December 8th.
Going back to a point that Nick Alifi had in yesterday's show, Soccer for Good OG Joe Robbins chimed in after it, where Nick says the biggest issue that MLS refuses to market itself like Serie A or the Premier League. No backstory, no deep dives. Just, well, here's the game. Investment in league-produced content would go a long way. Joe comes back and says, even a day in the life for more mundane aspects like officiating would go a long way to educate existing and new fans, would also help with transparency. NFL Films has a lot to teach MLS.
Yeah, I think NFL Films is the gold standard. I think it's easy to look at the types of things that they did and replicate it. I mean, I remember as a kid, it was easy to watch Football Follies and laugh and enjoy it. But then the next show that they would have on ESPN, when ESPN didn't have a ton of programming and they just dropped these NFL Films produced things in just to fill time, they'd have a feature on a great player or a great coach or a club or whatever, some deep dive feature. And it'd be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know about Gale Sayers. Awesome. I didn't know about Dick Butkus. Very cool. That type of stuff. I think you can follow that template that NFL Films has put out there. And something that came up, might have been in a separate conversation I was having yesterday with somebody. So Kalen Carr's movement series, I think, is great. And I think it's a great example of things you can do like what we're talking about here. So during the World Cup, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Fox did the Phenoms series and released them out to the regional sports networks. So between Braves games and Hawks games and Dream games and other games on Fox Sports South and Fox Sports Southeast, they'd drop a 30-minute Phenom series about Kellen Acosta and Walker Zimmerman or about Neymar or whoever. MLS should package, to start with, some of those movement episodes, put them together in a format that is either you're pairing two up to get to 30 minutes or you're doing one and you're maybe adding a few extra clips to it to get it to a 30-minute show and give them to the regional sports networks. Say, here, when you have an open spot, feel free to run this. That's how NFL Films got big on ESPN, folks. They didn't have enough stuff to run a network, and they put anything on. I mean, I watched Australian Rules football in 1982 on ESPN.
Yep.
So
Lethal Lee Matthews from Hawthorne.
Yep, they would throw all that on there. So the Fox Sports regional networks have open time. Your local networks that carry MLS matches, give them the show. Put it in a 30-minute show. Give them the reel and say, here you go, for you. Put it on when you need to put something on. Here you go. Those movement shows, I think, are a great thing to get a little bit deeper. And that can be a starting point. And you can do more stuff like that. That's more about culture, and that's a huge part of this as well. But you can do a feature on the first MLS Cup that was insane and do a 30-minute show about it. You can do those types of things very easily and give them out to these networks and just let them get out there. I'd love to see MLS consider that, because the Phenoms thing, I mean, I think they still pop up on the regional sports networks from time to time. So there you go. I mean, Fox Sports South and Fox Sports Southeast runs the Driven shows on a regular basis. I've seen a lot of the Braves ones many, many times. There's nothing else on. Okay, I'll watch the Greg Maddux Driven again. There might be something I didn't know last time. Do stuff like that and just hand it out and say, here, air it when you need to. That's a starting point.
And I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this next one. We've got a lot of Geiger and Pro stuff here in the timeline.
Okay.
Arakaunium _man. And then it looks like J with a drink, I'm guessing, because I don't see a tilde. Geiger would be a veteran and well-experienced crew. We just don't like him, and I think his negative reputation's overblown, although I'll still probably boo him and tell him he has puke on his sleeve because it's fun and he's a pro.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think that the booing and the reaction you get if you're Mark Geiger, I don't think he really cares. I don't think it matters to him. He's a professional doing his job. It's a thankless job. There's a couple refs that I prefer in Major League Soccer. I like the way they call a game. I like the way they manage it. Geiger's the biggest name you got. He's the biggest referee you have. And this is a game that after the first leg, you were probably going to get that type of ref. So I'm not surprised by the assignment at all. I think the worry about Geiger in the middle, honestly, is a good thing. I love that the fact that the referee assignment is announced and everybody is talking about it immediately yesterday. That shows how engaged people are with this team. That's really cool. The fear that, okay, now we're going to get screwed and we're going to lose because of Geiger, that's a little much.
Reminds me of baseball and what people think of Joe West.
I think it's even worse. I think when it comes to Geiger, it's worse. I think the general reaction, yeah, but I think the fear about Geiger getting that assignment's even worse, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't.
Rachel Affleck, apparently, my guess is Rachel read the Doug Robertson piece, and she goes, "This is exactly why Pro has zero credibility, a total embarrassment of a statement."
Yeah, that's what's frustrating about it is that statement is redeemed if you just come out in it and say what you said about the yellow card, red card. Because the statement on the penalty, it's fine. My issue with that is the communication and the way it was handled on the day. If they said at the end of the statement, communication was not what we want it to be in the stadium and we will work to change that in the future, fine, cool. Then at least you're addressing it. The second one about the studs up to Garza, I think if you're going to give that statement, you have to make it clear that David Villa did not receive a yellow card, and that would be incorrect according to the way we see it. I think you have to say that. Not saying it, people who don't go back and look, because I went back and double-checked. I'm like, wait a minute. He didn't get a yellow on that. The way the statement reads is, he got a yellow. He didn't get a yellow. So that I have an issue with that. You have to say that, and you have to make that clear that it was a yellow card or a red card decision. It's a judgment call from the referee. He judged it to be this way, except he didn't judge it to be that way because he didn't give anything, and that's wrong.
Clayton Poss is now officially more confused. He says, very frustrated now, more confused on what is clear and obvious. If the Villa foul isn't clear and obvious, how is the Villalba foul clear and obviously a foul?
Yeah, I mean, that's clear and obvious. I think whoever wrote the rules on this is not going to be happy with how clear and obvious has gone over, because the inconsistency of it just keeps pointing to what does clear and obvious mean. It's just not consistent. It's not consistent that in that game, David Villa throws an elbow to Jeff Larinowitz's mouth. He goes for a bicycle kick and dangerous play on Joseph Martinez, and he goes studs up into the kidneys of Greg Garza and doesn't get a yellow card. Meanwhile, Tito Villalba is on the field for 3 minutes, commits his first foul in a nothing part of the field, tripped a guy from behind, and it's a yellow card. That inconsistency is a huge issue, and that's the part that Pro's never going to address it in a statement, because then you can't trash the referees all the time if you're Pro. You can't do that, because then nobody believes in the referees, and that's not what you want. In this situation, though, when you give a statement, you have to give a true statement here. Yellow card wasn't issued. You have to make that clear. It should have been. At a minimum, it should have been a yellow card. But the inconsistency is a problem, and that was my biggest issue with Kevin Stott. Was fouls. I was okay with the way he called it. He tried to let it play. He couldn't. But cards were wildly inconsistent.
Chewy with a question having to do with something that's a developing story still out west. The San Diego vote failed, though, right? No chance for MLS there then. #WallPass Wednesday.
I don't think it's no chance, but it's definitely not as good of a chance. This whole thing has been
two.
What's that?
No, there were two measures that were looking to redevelop the Mission Valley site.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's really awkward the way this whole thing was set up. Like, one measure was going to be a developer that would have had a joint stadium with San Diego State and MLS. The other one was titled SDSU West, but it's not the university that is behind it. It's a group of boosters, and MLS would not be part of it from the beginning. So if MLS was going to use it, they would have to rent it, and that's not as likely. I don't know if that has been completely ruled out, but it's definitely not as likely. And, of course, the posturing, in the community would be, no, we want to be in control of the stadium from day one. Now that doesn't appear to be possible, we'll have to see if there's something next in San Diego. But this whole vote has been very strange. I think a lot of people thought that because the initiative was called SDSU West, that it was the university driving it, but it's not. So it's an awkward situation all the way around, but it definitely dents San Diego's hopes, which honestly I think were dented by St. Louis coming into it. Because if it's St. Louis or San Diego, I think St. Louis wins that.
As of about 7 hours ago, according to the San Diego Union Tribune, the SDSU West initiative in Measure G has 55% of the votes in favor. Measure E, the Soccer City initiative, only has 29% approval.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
And getting into it and trying to give a cursory explanation, Measure G changes the city's municipal code so they can sell the land to the university. The mayor then responds to negotiating sale prices and all that other kind of stuff. And Soccer City, the university athletic director, John David Wicker, sorry, I'm reading from the Union Tribune here. He says, on the athletic side, we will reach out to MLS and potentially the USL to talk about potential partnerships that might be available. We're not going to go out and buy a team, but we are looking to engage MLS and see if they have an ownership group in mind for San Diego for a proposed 35,000-seat stadium.
Yeah, as with anything, things can change. We'll see what happens next. But it's definitely a dent to San Diego's hopes as they have currently been constructed. St. Louis, Sacramento, Detroit, Raleigh, maybe Charlotte, maybe not. Tampa looks to be out of the running. San Antonio doesn't look as likely either, with Austin kind of sort of happening. See, there's a lot of different things that are kind of sort of right now. So stay tuned.
And also we have, let's see, what else do we have here quickly? The Colonel, Morning Colonel.
What's up, Colonel?
Colonel concurs with you, Reed Geiger.
Uh-oh.
One may have style issues, but among pros, best distressed to see/hear the focus on referees instead of our magnificent players. Most important is for the 17s, 72,000 strong to represent the ATL. No throwing, chanting, or other such tomfoolery.
No tomfoolery. I agree. If tomfoolery includes throwing ice at opposing goalkeepers and chanting awful things in Spanish, yes. I will agree with neither that chant, and we all know what chant it is, or throwing things on the field. Don't do it. The fans need to be loud. They need to consistently be loud. This is a game where Atlanta will need your support at different points in the match. This could be a game that twists and turns many different ways. So prepare accordingly. Maybe put that last drink down at the tailgate so you've got that extra bit of energy in the venue. Get in
some
there
breads
early,
and carbs.
Make that noise. Yes, if you need a Red Bull before you go in, do that. If you need a Monster Energy, whatever your energy drink of choice is, you need a mate, you need an extra coffee, whatever, because this is playoff atmosphere. It was loud in New York with 19,000 in the building, and it was probably pretty close to what it was. It was a pretty engaged crowd and filled in the lower level pretty well. And it was loud, and it was intense. This is going to be a whole different story. But there will be moments where Atlanta looks like they're on the ropes. Get louder. There will be moments where it looks like New York is starting to grow into the game. Get louder. Those types of things are very important. You might not think they are. These are professional athletes. They shouldn't be worried about what the crowd's doing. They feel it. That's the more important thing. They're not hearing every word, but they feel it, and it gives them a boost when they need it. So Be ready, folks. It's going to be a wild one. Don't get bent out of shape about stuff. Don't throw things. Don't do that stupid chant. If you hear that stupid chant around you, tell a steward.
Shut it down.
Well, shut it down by telling a steward. Shut it down by being louder and saying something else. Don't let it happen. Don't let that be the representation. So just be ready. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a difficult day. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully 2 goals in the first 5 minutes and we can all breathe. Chances of that happening? Not very likely. Don't worry about Geiger. He'll make a call that'll drive you crazy. He'll make a call that'll drive New York crazy. That's what referees do.
Eric Falczyk, and we might need to put out just a question as to whether or not Eric is okay. Upon seeing that Geiger's the center referee for Sunday's match, I'm wondering if I should crawl into a ball now for an overreaction Wednesday, or should I hide in a corner until 7:30 Sunday night?
Neither. Just watch the highlights from how Atlanta played at Yankee Stadium. Have faith in this group. They're better than a referee. Don't worry about referees so much. We're going to take a break. Come back. More of your Wall Pass Wednesday questions, comments, topics, what have you on the other side. Stay with us.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Wall Pass Wednesday edition of Soccer Down Here. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. Taking your questions, your comments, your tweets at Soccer Down Here. Use the hashtag Wall Pass Wednesday. Olsworthy chimes in. That's an awesome Twitter name, Olsworthy. I like it. Welcome to the show, Olsworthy. I don't think Atlanta United should pursue an NWSL team. There's very little demand for it, and they would run the risk of oversaturating the market. I think they do need to measure the demand. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's more than that, more than you think for it, but there is a question as to what the demand would be. I don't think they would run the risk of oversaturating the market because I think it would be a complementary brand to Atlanta United. It wouldn't be something that would be in competition with it. You know, you'd schedule everything to where it's in support. Look at what Portland's done with the Thorns, where the Thorns have been a vital part of the club and growing the overall club. They've had a lot of success with it. I think the Royals in Utah are finding that success as well. I think Orlando and Houston are still trying to find that when you look at MLS teams with an NWSL team. There's no guarantee that it's a massive success. I don't think it draws the same way. I think that's a reach. The Thorns are close to the Timbers, but they don't draw quite the same way. I don't think an NWSL team in Atlanta would draw like Atlanta United, but I think it could draw and be the best team in the league in terms of attendance. I think it would easily be with Portland in that. But you do have to measure that demand. I agree with Olsworthy in that. I think it's a few years away, regardless. I think the NWSL has some things that they have to sort out first before Atlanta would consider joining it. And Merritt Paulson and the RSL folks, I think, will be leading the efforts to try to recruit MLS teams in. And obviously, with what's going on in Atlanta, that's going to be your first conversation, is to sit down with Arthur Blank. So I think it happens, but I think it's going to be a little bit of time. I do. And I think that'll give some time to build that demand as well. So good comments, Swarthy. I think it's definitely something to consider. I don't think it's a absolute lock. It's 30,000 a game straight out of the gates. I think you do have to build it to a degree, and you have to be, I think, realistic out of it. Like Atlanta United 2 is a different situation because there's a player development component to it that honestly overrides what you'd be thinking about in terms of attendance and everything else. The first priority is to develop talent. With an NWSL team, it would be about its own business, and you'd have to be able to make it viable, for sure.
Lewis Martin, along those same lines, says attendance at Atlanta United matches accounted for 10.54% of total MLS attendance in 2018. Win or lose, Atlanta United is important to the league.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anybody would ever say it's not. If they do, it's kind of crazy. Look, I mean, I think we all get kind of wonky about some of the comments out of New York and MLS Digital. I get it. It frustrates me too. I wish they had a different approach in the way they covered the league and some of the things they say. I think sometimes they pick things to say about Atlanta to get a reaction. And for me, just somebody who's been involved in building social media networks and communications, I don't like that approach to get attention. I think it's a very short-term approach. You get some clicks, you get some engagement, you get some, oh, wow, did you see what they said? But you don't build a connection with the brand, and I'd like to see MLS focus more on that as opposed to antagonizing a club or a fan base that is very vocal because they're very large. So I wish it would change, and it's not even just about Atlanta. I wish it would change from trying to get clicks to trying to build an emotional connection to the league and its clubs. I think that's something that other leagues in the U.S. do a very good job with. So that's my hope. I don't know if it's going to in the short term. I think the league would be better served if it did, but we'll just have to wait and see. They're going to say stuff. Things are going to happen. They say it about every group, every club, every fan base to try to get a reaction, and that's what they do. They pick, I think, on Atlanta maybe more so than others because it's easier to get a reaction. Because there's a lot of people in that fan base, as Lewis points out.
I mean, and when you're trying to do that kind of stuff, there are ways to go about it. And some folks have chosen to go the way of the low-hanging fruit and chase after the lowest common denominator and go for clicks and sit there and poke you in the sternum instead of trying to lift you up and move you along in the process and sit there and go, okay, here's why, and here are stories why you should be engaged, and here's some stuff that if you are engaged that you may not know, and that's probably because I'm 700 years old and like to tell stories and look at things in a journalistic way instead of going for the cheap pop and cutting the promo and trying to be a heel and getting people riled up and getting the interest that way. It's a negative interest demeanor as opposed to trying to do something in a positive way and introducing more people and making it more inclusive instead of sitting there and going and pointing a finger at your top fan base and getting them mad and getting them engaged that way. I'd prefer to do things in a positive way to get folks engaged as opposed to the negative that seems to be out there a lot more.
Build for the long term. Don't light a match and walk away. Don't. And stuff like this, to me, it's silly. I mean, Sherb's comments on it. MLS Digital busy on Twitter trolling Atlanta fans over whether they are allowed to ever complain about a call. Seattle must have become boring as a heel fan base. I wonder what will happen when FCC enters the league. You'll see some of it there. it should not be the case that every new fan base that enters the league has frustrations with the way the league, their digital side, and they're separate. I mean, I don't think Don Garber's instructing the digital community to do what they do. It's not his job. But
Don Garber's not Vince McMahon.
No, but that's how a lot of people perceive it, because this is coming from the Major League Soccer website and personalities on the website. It's a very different approach than you see other leagues have in terms of the league communication, and I don't think it's the best for the long term. Maybe just a little bit more of my personal taste and the way I would do it and the way that I think works. I'd be in it for the long haul, and I'd be in it to tell the compelling stories and generate conversation, sure, but not in this kind of way. Not where you're saying things like ATL fans don't get to talk about hitting someone in the head when you're referring to the Joseph Martinez situation with Chad Marshall and comparing it to some of the situations from New York. And again, just because one call happened doesn't mean that every other call is okay. It's definitely not karma. Stop. Just stop that. It's silly. So when you see it, just honestly, I mean, don't engage, because that's what they're trying to get out of it. It doesn't lead to anything good. It just continues the conversation and the narrative. Nothing changes. It's a thing to me that I almost wonder if there is an understanding of truly how large the Atlanta United fan base is. And I'm not talking about just people who show up in the building. I'm talking about the fan base and the community, because it's bigger than any other fan base. I don't think that's an incorrect statement. So when you say something, there is going to be more pushback because it's more people to push back. So it's not that Atlanta United fans are so different than every other fan base. It's that there are so many of them. And yes, when you say something that is directly trying to antagonize, people are going to respond. Lots of different people. That's a good thing that you have such a large engaged fan base. It's not a bad thing. And if you don't want to do that, then change your messaging. I don't know. It is what it is. It's not going to change anytime soon. So don't worry about it. We know what's going on with Atlanta United Soccer. We know what's going on with soccer in Atlanta. There's plenty of other ways to get your information and get your news. If you don't like certain approaches, don't follow it. Don't engage with it. Just let it be. I don't know what else to say, because nothing's changed. I think if anything, it seems like it's getting more of a double down on trying to antagonize at this point. So just let it be.
Well, the more successful some things are, the more you want to try to knock it down.
No. I don't think that's it. I truly don't think you're trying to knock it down. If you are, then you shouldn't be working for Major League Soccer. I don't think there's anything about trying to knock it down. I think it's just trying to get clicks. Like, why would MLS be trying to knock it down? That doesn't make any sense. That's where you go conspiracy theory, and there's no logic there. Why would that be a good thing for the league to knock down what's happening here? That doesn't make sense.
Sorry, poor phraseology on my part.
Yeah, no. People have said that. You're not the only one who said that. Like, there's no logic behind that. To me, it's just trying to get clicks, which is a completely different.
I'm agreeing
strategy
with you there. I'm just saying that my phraseology in trying to put that point out there just now is probably not the way it should have been phrased. The larger something gets, when you know that when you've said things initially and you make an impact on something, it's like, okay, say you don't like something. Say you don't like vegetables. And there are a lot of people who do like vegetables when they eat them. But because of the capability of the mouthpiece that you have, you sit there and you keep bad-mouthing vegetables, but more people want to eat healthier these days. And the more people that want to eat healthier, the more you realize that there are more people out there that want to eat healthier. So therefore, to continue raising your own numbers and continuing your own narrative, you're going to continue to bash those people because you're seeing the success in your initial activity. Therefore, the larger that group gets, the more you're going to chase after it and the more you're going to say what you've been saying initially, because you're gauging that reaction and getting more of a reaction, and then there's more people to get a reaction from. So you're going to continue to do it. It's a cycle.
But that's in a vacuum. This is a communication strategy that, instead of building engagement and long-term emotional connections, it's focused on getting immediate clicks and gratification. The easiest way to do that is to say something explosive or to say something to antagonize.
And negative.
Like a lot of times. But to even take it a step beyond that. Take it beyond like trying to be negative. Just take it to where your strategy of building your brand is to get short-term, instant gratification clicks and comments back versus building a long-term emotional connection with your product. I'm going to take the latter every single time. Every single time. Because this is not about being negative to Atlanta. I don't think MLS Digital truly cares if they're negative to Atlanta, if they're negative to Seattle, if they're negative to NYC. I don't think they're thinking that way. I think they're thinking of, okay, we just got a bunch of clicks here. We have to cover this more. We have to do it more like this because we just got a bunch of clicks.
Right.
For me, and this is the point I want people to understand, is that clicks don't mean people care. Short-term engagement does not mean that people are truly connecting to your brand, your story, whatever you're trying to sell. It's long-term emotional investment in your product. Going for short-term clicks does not generate that. It runs the risk of doing the opposite. From a big picture strategy of the way this is being handled, I think it's the wrong strategy to pursue. You're trading long-term emotional investment in the league and in its teams and its players for short-term clicks and anger for the most part.
And you run the risk of turning the non-hardcores off by doing something like that.
I think that's overrated. I do. I think that's been something that's come up a lot of times here is, well, you're going to turn non-hardcore fans off when the league's saying this. I think it's a little overrated. I think it just gets tuned out. I think it's just, okay, hopefully what happens is those non-hardcores find somewhere else to get their information.
You hope
That's
so.
The problem is there's not a ton of outlets to do that right now because it's not other sports where it is being talked about on a regular, on ESPN, on Fox, and you have shows dedicated to it, and that's the conversation. That's where the narrative starts. Here, right now, the narrative starts with the league and its digital arm. I think that's an opportunity for the league to craft the narrative the way they want. And I wish they would pick a different way to craft it. It's not going to benefit the long term to do it this way. I don't see any way it does. The league's not going anywhere. You don't have to get short-term clicks here to get people to notice you. Just tell the story. Tell the story about what's going on. Tell the story about, that was a great match. That was an incredibly intense match. You had incidents all the way around. Do a highlight reel of the studs up to the kidneys and LGP going in hard on somebody and this and that, and Tajori Shradi holding his finger walking off, or Mehdi holding his thumb. Do a reel of that. Don't point fingers. Don't try to stoke the fires. Just say, man, this was an intense game. This had an edge to it. This was great. Round 2 on Sunday. Done. It's not that hard. It can be done better. Being an antagonist all the time is not what the league should be doing, I don't think. I don't think it meets their long-term mission, vision of growing the game. So I hope it changes. I hope it evolves. Honestly, I think the biggest way that it can is to just not engage with it. Because right now, if it's just measured by clicks and measured by impressions, don't give it to them. Because if they're getting that and that's what they think is the way to go to grow the league, and they're getting those impressions, that's what they're going to continue to do. And Cincinnati will feel the brunt of it, and Miami will definitely feel the brunt of it because Miami's going to come in and throw their weight around and be very ambitious, and they're going to have people jacked up in South Florida about it. And this type of stuff will start. And I don't think it's a good thing when it feels like the league is constantly trying to antagonize fan bases. So,
especially the new guy that walks in the door. If it continues,
it's not even the new guy; it's the bigger guys. And the reason the new guys are the bigger guys is because they're in a different situation in building a club. They don't have that baggage of having to survive. They don't have that baggage of playing in front of 5,000 people on a regular basis in a football stadium. They don't have that. That taint is not on their club like it is on some of the original clubs that had to survive it. It's difficult. It's difficult to change the narrative if you're the New England Revolution and you've played at Gillette Stadium and it is what it is and people don't see it as a big deal. You've got to try to rebrand and retell your story and redo it as opposed to starting fresh. Atlanta was able to start fresh. Orlando was able to start fresh. Now they've made some mistakes that have taken them backwards. We'll see if they can bounce back. NYC had the chance to start fresh. They haven't had a lot of momentum on the stadium front. That's an issue. Cincinnati will be starting fresh. Nashville will be starting fresh. Miami will be starting fresh. It's a great opportunity to have, and that's why the newer teams have had more success. That's not something to pick at. That's something to celebrate. And where a story needs to be said about this guy played really poorly, this guy did this, whatever, do it. But do it in a fair way, and don't use social media to just try to get clicks. It can be better, and it will be better for the league. That's my issue with it. I don't care that it's Atlanta. I don't care that that's the problem with it. I care that I want this league to grow, and I think this approach is not going to help it grow. That's my issue with it. Let's take a break. Come back. More Wall Pass Wednesday on the other side. Stay with us.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, Wall Pass Wednesday, November 7th. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you this morning. Believe we're just about caught up on the Wall Pass Wednesdays and the comments.
Yeah.
Head over if you want to continue your AMAs for the day. Head over to the Atlanta United subreddit at 1 o'clock, and there's an AMA with Mike Conti over there. Go ask your questions for Mike. I know he has a lot of fun with those. So chime in over at the Atlanta United subreddit ahead of 1 o'clock. He'll answer your questions starting at 1. What else is on your mind, John?
Oh, Fantasy League.
Yes, we have finals and awards and people to talk about.
According to the major domo of the Fantasy League, Jason Wright, and our friends at the Wright Agency, winners have been notified. Promotion League winner Andy Watkins and fall season winner Kyle Cram get 2 tickets each to the NYCFC Pigeons playoff game. More prizes awarded to more managers in coming days, including several limited edition scarves from this season. Stay tuned.
Very cool. Thank you, Jason Wright.
So,
you the man.
Yes. For everything this season and ever since we've started the show, Jason and the Wright Agency have been, as they say in Broadway, one of the angels of the show. And so we couldn't have been doing a whole lot of stuff without Jason and his support, and also Steve Apolinski and Associates, and Faction. Seat Giant USA, also a sponsor. Don't forget to use the code SDH there as well when it comes to getting tickets. And, maybe if you're looking for tickets and didn't win the Fantasy League this year, check out SeatGiant.com and see what they can help you out with for getting in the building this weekend. And don't forget to use the code SDH at checkout because it helps you out, helps the show out, helps everybody out. But thanks to the I think it was like more than 110 folks who joined the Fantasy League this year. So that was a really cool experiment, and glad that folks decided to dive in on that. And Jason and I finished, I think, both in the top 40. We were nowhere close to the promotion relegation aspect of the whole thing.
Well, that would be close, but yeah, we didn't make it. I don't think SeatGiant.com will be able to help the media trying to get into the first leg of the Copa Libertadores final.
Oh, yeah.
Boca Juniors hosting at La Bombonera, and they have 259 desks for national and international press. Over 2,500 applications for accreditation. Yeah. I don't think everybody's getting in.
No, I do not believe so.
So 2 o'clock for that on Saturday.
Press overflow.
I don't know if there's going to be a press overflow, dude. This doesn't work the same way. There's only so much overflow, and the place is going to be packed. So
we're going to put you like 8. We're going to put you 8 blocks away in this building over here.
Probably. It'll be on the TV. Have fun. That's what it's going to be. So 2 o'clock Saturday, believe Fox Deportes is going to have it. I don't know why this is so difficult at this point. Fox Deportes was very inconsistent on showing these games. They would show them, then they wouldn't show them, then they showed them on tape delay. I don't know. I'm waiting to see the final schedule for what they're going to do on Saturday. Last time I looked, it was not going to be on Fox Deportes. I know Fanatis will have it. Fanatis.com. It's $9.99 a month. It is definitely worth it if you are an Atlanta United fan with all of the players coming out of Argentina. Get a chance to see them before they show up in Atlanta. You'll also get a chance to go back and watch games on demand, which is a very cool feature. So I like Fanatis a lot. I know they'll have it. We are checking around to see. I know a few different people have asked about anywhere to watch it in Atlanta and efforting at the moment. So stay tuned. We might have something for you guys on that. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, the media, they might have to join us because I don't think they're getting into La Bombonera.
Press conference time announced for the introduction of Marc Dos Santos in Vancouver. It will be 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Very nice.
So 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock our time. Whitecaps co-owner Jeff Mallett, President Bob Lenarduzzi, and Marc Dos Santos will be introducing Marc Dos Santos, I assume, with the scarf presentation and everything else. 1 o'clock, and the photo op is at 1:30. It is at the Development Center at UBC.
Curious to see what some of his first steps are going to be. Very intrigued to see how that plays out. Before we go to our final break, U.S. men's national team roster was announced yesterday for games against England and Italy and Europe. Brad Gazan, Darlington Nagbe, part of that roster from Atlanta. We'll have to stay tuned to see how they deal with potential conflicts in the playoffs. They would be back in time for the first leg of the conference finals, but that's not exactly an ideal situation. Zach Steffen, who's still alive in the playoffs, he was called up as well. So Gazan, Steffen, Ethan Horvath are your goalkeepers. Defenders who are still involved in the postseason, Aaron Long, Jorge Villafana. Walker Zimmerman's team was eliminated. Reggie Cannon's team was eliminated. European defenders, John Brooks, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Matt Miazga, Shaq Moore, Anthony Robinson, DeAndre Yedlin. Midfielders who are still involved in the postseason, Tyler Adams is in there. Darlington Agby, as we talked about. Will Trapp is in there. Players who are not involved in the postseason, Kellen Acosta, and then your European players like Luca De La Torre. I'm excited to see Luca De La Torre. He's a player that I've wanted to see more of. Marky Delgado, Toronto FC, did not make it. Romain Gall, which was interesting because he did not make it in Columbus. Now he's at Malmö in Sweden. This is his opportunity for his first cap. Julian Green, Sebastian Lletget from the LA Galaxy. Good to see him back in the mix. Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Kenny Seff, Tim Weah. And up top, two forwards, both European-based, Josh Sargent, Bobby Wood. It's a young group, 17 players, 23 years or younger. 18 players have earned 10 caps or fewer. It kind of falls along the lines of what we've been seeing with the national team as of late. It's still in a holding pattern. Don't have a manager just yet. November 1st was a date that was out there about trying to have something announced. It's November 7th. Just saying, not saying, just saying.
Now, did we talk about Steve Cherundolo?
He's going to be the guest assistant coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be the guest assistant coach, like Josh Wolf was.
I thought that was kind of cool.
I mean, they've bounced that around. It's smart for Saracen. I mean, he doesn't have a full staff, and he can't really hire anybody. So, it's kind of like you got to do what you got to do.
Yo, dog. It's like, yo, dog, can you come help me out?
Yeah, I mean, you're in Europe, so Cherundolo has been in Europe. He's in between jobs at the moment. I think he's a guy I'd like to see do more with U.S. soccer. I think he'd bring a great perspective to it. So we'll see. I don't think this means anything, though. So just he's the guest assistant manager at this point. So we'll see what happens. We're going to take our final break, come back. More Wall Pass on the other side. If you have any final questions, get them in at Soccer Down Here. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Final segment, Soccer Down Here for November 7th. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. We have had lots of Wall Pass questions, lots of great comments from you guys out there listening. Thanks to everybody who's been so engaged with us, not just today, but in general. These shows are a lot of fun when we get lots of back and forth. Swick, the Swickster, chimes in. Since the games are only friendlies, I would not be surprised to see Gazan, Steffen, and other playoff contenders only play the first game. I'd completely agree. If teams are eliminated, then it's a different story. Then they play both. But the interesting thing is going to be if it is Atlanta-Columbus in the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah.
And you have two of your three goalkeepers involved. I mean, I'd expect Horvath to get that game, but you might want to bring in a backup and let Gazan and Steffen go back. Just saying. I don't know. Waiting to see other countries' call-ups as well. Paraguay does not. I don't think they have games scheduled. I think it would be another training camp possibly, but have not seen anything on them. Venezuela have not seen their roster as of yet for the international break. You would expect that Joseph Martinez is called up. Most importantly is Sunday, and you figure everything else after that. You have to get through Sunday and see where you're at. For me, Sunday just still comes down to get the first goal and get it early. Because if New York City scores early, then it's game on. Everything is even. Nothing has changed from the start of game one. You are completely back even. Both teams have an away goal. And NYC would have the opportunity to add another away goal. That's tricky. So, first goal is always important. I mean, the numbers back it up. Teams who score first win far more often than not. Here, I think it's even more important because of the situation. I think an early goal doesn't put the series away, but it does change the impetus for NYC, and I think it has to make them open up a little bit more, something that they're not exactly comfortable doing.
Yeah, and I think that you get it done early, and I know that there are a lot of lineup questions with various health of players, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was something of a redo with what we saw where Miguel gives you 45, and then it's a combination of...
Miguel's going to give you more than 45. I mean, there's been recovery for another week, so you would think he's going to be able to give you more than 45.
In theory, yes. I'm hoping so. And then the Tito Barco situation, obviously trying to figure out what Tito's level of recovery is too.
Yeah, Tito's not as far along as Miguel. I mean, just judging from the performances on Sunday, I would think Miguel is... I think if Sunday had been a final, Miguel could have played longer. I don't know if he would have went 90, but I think he definitely could have played into the second half. The part we don't know is, are you going to be able to keep it loose at halftime? That's the tricky part with muscle injuries. You can get through the half, but then when you cool down, can you get it going again? That's what's difficult sometimes. And can they manage that? Can they get through it? We'll have to wait and see. I think Miguel gets into the second half here. I don't know if he finishes, but I think he gets into the second half, and that gives you even more reason to try to put this thing away early.
60, 65, 70, somewhere in there, you think?
We're pulling
depending on situation, obviously.
Yeah, we're pulling numbers out of a hat. We don't know. I think, you're hoping for 90. You hope you don't need him for 90 is the better way to put it.
Brandon would like Will Trapp to play both games.
Well, no. It just depends on the situation. Will Trapp might not have anything to do after Sunday. They've got work to do themselves. So it's going to be a fun next couple of days. It starts tomorrow night with Portland and Seattle, late night. We'll be talking about that on Friday. Portland goes into Seattle with a 2-1 lead. Maybe they would have liked one more. Seattle did get an away goal, so 1 goal for Seattle, and they're in the driver's seat. That's a razor-thin margin for Portland, but we've seen Portland be very comfortable sitting back and defending for 90 minutes. They're very good at it. Can they do that again here? They will get Larry Mabiala back. He was red-carded in the knockout round game. He missed the first leg. He's back now. That helps their back line a lot, pairing with Liam Ridgewell. Seattle will not have Chad Marshall. He had a surgical procedure on his meniscus. Don't know about Christian Roldan yet. Don't know about anybody else with Seattle, but this is a very, very interesting one tomorrow night. It's going to be a fun watch. And then Sunday, it starts with Kansas City and Real Salt Lake. Then it's Atlanta and NYC. Then it's Columbus and the New York Red Bulls. All kinds of drama coming up in the MLS Cup playoffs. That's it for us. Thanks, everybody, for the wall passes. Hopefully we delivered them back into your run, and you've went on and you've scored all the goals you possibly could today.
All
Mucho
the goals.
platiel.
Mucho platiel.